Welcome back everyone, my name is Caleb Simpson and you are watching my 100% walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for Nintendo Wii. In the last video we made it to the halfway point of the ascending the Eldin Volcano, so now we're continuing on with the second half and we're going to scale the rest of it and enter the Earth Temple. So in this next area we actually have a sandy hill and you have to run up these guys because they will make you slide otherwise. So you want to use your stamina with A and you gotta go to other little platforms to recuperate your stamina in the meantime. So you want to go over to the far left. There's actually some bomb flowers here which you can use to blow up the rocks nearby just to the south, and this actually leads to a shortcut all the way back to the beginning. So if you haven't activated that bird statue down there, you might want to do that real quick. But also there's often volcanic ladybugs over here on the right on the wall. And I'm actually really surprised that there wasn't right now. There usually is. Also, if you did not get the Goddess Cube back there, you definitely want to do that towards the entrance of Eldin Volcano. So make sure you grab that guy if you haven't done that yet. Continuing onwards, we're going to run back up to one of these platforms. There's also a Bokoblin over here on the right. If you can sneak up behind it, you actually can defeat it this way without ever having to actually fight it. You can actually sneak up behind it if you're quiet enough. But one thing you want to watch out for, a lot of these Bokoblins, I find when they roll down the hill, they often drop ornamental skulls. I don't know why these Bokoblins tend to have it seems like they have a much greater drop chance for that. So even if you knock them off the ledge and they roll down the hill, then I like to watch their body and see if they actually lead to some treasure, because it happens quite often. The nearby soft soil also often has Deku Seeds, and this is a clue that you can use it on this upcoming puzzle. Now you can't actually just dash around, wait for this Bokoblin to throw the rock and then dash off to the side and then quickly climb up while it's distracted for a moment. Unfortunately, that Bokoblin will try to smack you if you try to climb up while it's not currently holding the rock, so that can be kind of dangerous. It is possible to climb up, but it's very difficult. What you're supposed to do is use the slingshot to smack it and make the rock fall on top of it. This will defeat it. So just bear that in mind. This is actually training because they want you to do that later on. But go ahead and defeat these Bokoblins here. I was trying to wait for it and then use the shield bash, but that did not work out so great. Anyways, finally got it. There is a Bokoblin that is up on top of this little tower, and it doesn't really matter. It keeps using its horn over and over again, but it's not actually going to summon anymore. I'm actually not sure, I think that they only summon them initially at the very beginning. There's actually a couple different things we can blow up with bombs here. You want to use a bomb flower on the nearby tower, and this will knock it down and create a bridge. This also defeats the Bokoblin on the other side. Sometimes it's good to look over there and see, in this case, in this particular video, I can actually see that it dropped just a green rupee. I don't care about that, but if it dropped an ornamental skull, I definitely want to run over there and grab it, or a monster horn. There's actually two different walls we can blow up. One of them that's pretty obvious leads to the Thrill Digger, which is actually pretty worthless. But then continuing on to the left, there's also another little hidden alcove. You can see it on your map. Again, it's discolored slightly, but it's off to the left. But that wall is actually totally flush, but it does have a slight crack. So if you blow it up with the nearby bomb flowers, this will reveal some rupees. And I think this only has red rupees. I feel like my memory serves me that it's actually a silver rupee, but for me it was just red rupee. So if there is some variation there, please let me know in the comments, but maybe it's only the red rupees. I'm not actually going to do the Thrill Digger at the moment. When I practiced, I actually did manage to, actually it's a little more complicated story. I actually did record part of this game, and then I realized partway through that a lot of my recordings were totally screwed up. It totally messed up the audio completely, so I had no audio for the first third of the game, or a little bit past that. I got to the imprisoned, and all of my recordings were messed up before that, so I was like, yeah. So this actually is me re-recording the game. So my first recording, I actually tried out Thrill Digger, and I did amazing. I can't believe my luck was actually good, which was nuts. Right here what I'm doing is I'm actually recalibrating. There's often a volcanic ladybug off to the left, so I like to grab that real quick. And then there's some of these red choo-choos up ahead, and they're pretty easy to defeat. Again, if you smack a red choo-choo really quickly, left and right, really fast, you can actually defeat it without ever having to actually worry about anything. You can actually kill it without separating at all. So like I was explaining earlier, I do like to look down after I defeat these Bokoblins because they occasionally drop treasure. I think it's Murphy's Law. It's the ones that are awkward and out of the way, those are the ones that drop the ornamental skulls, and then I don't get them. So I do like to, at the very least, listen for the noise. If they make that little noise when they drop treasure, then you want to run back down there and grab it real quick, because it's probably an ornamental skull, although it is possible they could drop a monster horn. At least not these ones. The ones that have bandanas can drop monster horns, I think. Although maybe I'm mistaken about that. Like I just always assumed that the ones that are carrying monster horns could also drop them from defeating them. But maybe that's not true, because watching through all my footage, I haven't seen me collect a dropped monster horn at all the entire game. Later you can actually forcefully get monster horns, but I'll explain more about that when we get there. Just one quick note about the Bokoblins when they're throwing rocks like this. Just be careful, because these ones especially, there's 3 of them real close together, so be careful not to hit into that. Now, here I'm listening and watching for the Bokoblins to see if they drop treasure, but then I decided it wasn't worth it because they're probably sailing all the way to the bottom. Anyways, here we have several Bokoblins, and you can either kill them one by hitting them with the slingshot while they have the rocks over their head. One quick note about that too, if you accidentally shoot them while they are not currently holding a rock, they'll get stunned, but then they won't pick up rocks after that at all, which can be a problem because that means that they will smack you when you run up to them. So your options at that point are to either, you basically have to stun them with the slingshot in order to climb up. So you stun them real quick and then quickly make a run for it and climb up while they're still stunned. It's just a little bit awkward especially if you have more than one. And you don't technically have to stun them if they're still picking up rocks, because while they're concentrating on picking up rocks, you can run up while they're distracted. And then as long as you get up there before they actually throw the rock, then you'll be safe and you can sneak up behind them. That's the other way to do that. Alright, so with that rather humorous exchange with the 2 Magmas, we learned 2 vital pieces of information. One is that apparently Zelda has been kidnapped by the Bokoblins and taken into the temple, which is bad. Now she's in enemy hands. And the second thing we learned is that there is a key needed to open the door, and Fi was able to scan the door, and now we are able to dowse for the different pieces. So we're now going to go search for the 5 pieces of the key in order to open the Earth Temple. So before you continue onwards, I do like to save right now, and then if you select C and then dowse for the key pieces, you'll see that the first one is actually really close by. I would recommend, though, that you continue to dig up the various soft soil locations around here, because they often have Eldin ore, and finally at long last I'm starting to get some ore, although not as much as I would have liked. There is actually one more thing we want to do before continuing onwards. You don't necessarily have to do it in this order, but it is more efficient. And as long as we're here, I'm going to go ahead and get this Eldin roller. There's usually at least 1 to 2 Eldin rollers right here, so as long as whenever we warp to this bird statue, I like to do that. You'll see there's actually a cracked wall off to the side, and if you dowse towards it, you'll see that there is a key piece in there. Now, we will go get that here in just a moment, but what you want to do is just throw the bomb over there, and this will blow it up so that we can access that. We'll actually get that here in just a little bit, but you just want to blow it up ahead of time so now we can reach it. So spin back around, and now we have our next soft soil location is right next to this pool of water. So dig that up, and this will reveal an air geyser. Now, unfortunately, you don't want to just climb into that just yet. You want to go ahead and grab one of these bomb flowers and throw it into the air geyser instead to blow up the rocks above. And I accidentally walked into it as well, which I was not meaning to do, but I still was able to move away. Now, oddly enough, that's one of those few situations in the game where the camera angle is forced to go to a different location, but you still have control of your hero. So I ran out of the way so that I didn't take damage from the bombs, and behind it, it reveals a goddess cube. This particular goddess cube leads to 300 rupees, which is right behind a bamboo island, which is awesome. It's a big chunk of rupees. Whenever you're getting gold rupees like that, you always want to make sure you have enough room in your wallet so that you don't waste anything. Otherwise, it's so weird. Like, unlike Twilight Princess, this game totally lets you open up big chests of money, and you'll end up wasting the rupees. Hopping on to the next platform, there is also a soft soil location here, which, again, did not give me any ore. I'm not having very good luck with that this time. Up ahead, we have a tower that we need to blow up. There's only bomb flowers up here. You want to progressively just, like, keep throwing bombs until it lands somewhat near the tower. Once it's really, really close, you can go ahead and run down. Otherwise, you might want to stay up there and just wait for a little bit. I play this game a lot, though, so I'm, like, familiar with it. I took one look at it and was like, oh, yeah, I'm good. This reveals a soft soil location that has the next piece of the key. So with that in hand, we're ready to continue onwards. And before we leave, I do just want to point out that there is a propeller on the ground here. This is an important piece of information to know for later, although you would be able to figure it out on your own. It's just nice to know that this is here. Now to continue onwards, you can just continue on to the far north, but instead there's actually a better method. If you blew up the wall to the far right with me, then you can also do this. You can jump across this gap and then land here. It saves just a little bit of time. Now, of course, you could have just run down here by itself before, but I just like to do both those things at the same time. So running across, this is that wall that we blew up earlier by throwing the bomb flower from up above, and this reveals the third piece of the key. So with that, you can go ahead and continue on to the north, and that's all of the pieces of the key that were right outside the temple itself. Now the soft soil location that's right here in the middle actually just has a red choo-choo, so that's not something we want, so I'm going to ignore that one. But continuing onwards, we need to kill all of the Bokoblins that are in this little encampment, and then use a bomb flower to break the nearby tower. One of the reasons why I like the Zelda series so much is just like all the variety. It's one of the reasons why I think this game is so engaging. I love just using different methods to fight the enemies. So I'm showing that for two reasons. One, because I'm trying to do a walkthrough and show different methods for fighting these enemies, but also because that's just what I like. I like varying it up and having different things. Like when I play Smash Bros, I usually just pick a different character every time. I don't care that I'm maybe not as skilled as some other people that have some mains or whatever. I don't care. My whole enjoyment is the fact of the variety, being able to do a bunch of different things. So that's the same thing with Zelda. Here with these Bokoblins alone, there's you can smack them with your sword, you can use spin attacks, you can use shield bashes, you can run and slash at them, you can use Skyward Strikes, you can use bombs or slingshot or whatever. There's just so many options, and I think that's really cool. It makes this game really interesting. And I really like the hidden skills in Twilight Princess are one of the reasons why I really like that game too. I feel like the first part of Twilight Princess is kind of boring, and then all the bugs and stuff is ugh. And then after that you're yeah, or by bugs I mean the Twilight bugs is what I mean by that. Anyways, continuing onwards, you want to go ahead and use a nearby bomb flower inside one of these little huts and then destroy the tower with it. And I like to check on the other side to make sure. I feel like that Bokoblin often always has an ornamental skull, so just be ready to run across the bridge if that happens. Continuing onwards, there is actually a goddess cube nearby, and this one leads to a treasure medal, which will allow you to find treasure from monsters more often, which is very handy to have. So if you're wanting to, you could technically leave now and go get that. I think it's more worthwhile to just do it here in a little bit. We're almost done with this section, and we're going to go to the temple. So go ahead and grab that, then finally go across the bridge we created by destroying the tower, and up ahead we have some fire chews. This is not a big deal at all, but go ahead and defeat them as we're progressing. There's also a fire chew here, and I do like to kill them because they occasionally drop chew jelly. This is kind of I feel like if you would just kill all the chews and keys throughout the game, generally speaking, you'll get enough monster claws and chew jelly-ish. You'll get most of the ones you need for all of the upgrades in the game. If you're not planning on doing all the upgrades, you can just skip past a lot of them. You don't have to defeat those ones, but I like to... I don't know. Yeah, just the whole game's kind of designed where if you pick up bugs just as you're traveling, as long as you're kind of going along the right way, pick up all the bugs and defeat all the enemies, usually you'll get most of the treasure you need for the entire game. This next area, how you do this is you actually stand close to the edge and press A for Link to swing around, and then you can grab on by your hands, and then work your way to the right and then climb back up. Jump across along the various platforms, and once you reach the end, you have to dash off this ledge with A so that you can reach the vines. And then just quickly work your way to the far bottom right. There is actually a stamina fruit, but it's in the very far bottom right corner, so you have to grab that. You don't have quite enough stamina to climb all the way around, I don't believe. You do actually use less stamina if you just climb without swinging the Wiimote. You swing the Wiimote and you'll jerk forward a little bit faster, and that does consume some stamina, but makes you take less time. So if you don't actually use the Wiimote to swing that to make you... climb a little bit faster, then you actually use less stamina, just so you know. You can go a further distance if you're only climbing regular. Once you get to the end, step on the floor switch to create a bridge backwards. This is just a shortcut, and we will actually be using that here shortly. Go ahead and dig up the remaining soft soil locations in here, and one of them usually has ore, and again, for me it did not. I keep not finding Eldin ore. Anyways, and then there's also, the other one always has an Eldin roller in it. And I feel like there's often Amber Relics behind here. I know there's Dusk Relics in the Silent Realm, but I think there's Amber Relics back here regular too, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But anyways, I just like to check behind there. Continuing onwards, then Fi says that this next area is super, super hot. She recommends that you follow your dowsing options, and if you do so, it just points off to the right. So you want to go ahead and enter here, and then just dash off to the right, otherwise you'll continually take damage. Now in general, when you're on fire, you can make it go away by either doing spin attacks or rolling in particular is the best way to take care of that. However, you're just going to be constantly on fire if you're in this area, so just run through, run off to the right, you'll take damage from the fire, but all well. So here we have another one of those sandy hills, but instead of going up, we're sliding down it. So this is the Great Sand Slide. You want to work your way to the far left, use the geyser to get up on the platform so now you can assess your situation. Now whenever you have sacred butterflies like this, you just want to keep track of these locations. There's actually a secret here, but we can't do anything with that at the moment. It's just optional though, you don't have to come back here. Go ahead and dig up the soft soil, and finally I found an Eldin ore. Now when I hopped off here, I accidentally I didn't jump far enough, and so I held A as soon as I landed, so I start running as soon as I hit the sand, otherwise you'd continue sliding all the way down. And actually, just a quick comment about that, you want to be really careful when if you land like I just did, to not hold too far forward, otherwise you could actually roll into the ledge in front of us, and then we'd bonk against it, and then we'd slide. Anyways, by running off ledges like this and then holding A on the sand, you can run, and in this case I'm going to use it to get back up, wait for my stamina to recharge, and then I'm going to run over to the other side on the left. So this allowed me to get that goddess cube. And by the way, this goddess cube leads to a piece of heart in Skyloft. However, we will not be able to actually access that piece of heart for a very long time. But just a quick note about that. Now this particular platform always has a fairy in it. I think that fairy reappears if you ride your Loftwing and come back here, so it's not like you can dig it up again here shortly. You have to actually leave the area and come back in order to make that happen. But anyways, come on. This time you want to go to the right side where there's the blue rupees, and so there's 3 paths you can take on this sandy hill. So we took the far left side, and now we're taking the far right path. And these geysers actually, they're timed. I'm going to turn back around here so you can see it, but you want to wait until both of them start. So you'll see the far one is not going right now, and then this one's going to stop, and then the other one's going to start up again. So you want to wait until both geysers are going. Right as this other one starts, that's when you want to hop in. That's the timing on that. The reason I jumped before is because the timing was really good. I was like, oh man, I made it just in time, so I went ahead and grabbed it. So this is the piece of the key that you saw if you doused from one of those platforms up above, although it's sort of misleading because it makes it look like you need to go from the right side. Now one quick tip for you too, you can hop down here and you can actually run all the way up here to get this rupee, which doesn't really matter too much. This is actually a really nice tip for the Silent Realm once we get to that point of the game, and that'll make sense once you get to that. But just remember that you can run up the hill after dashing off of one of these little platforms. Down at the bottom there is some more soft soil, and these often have some Eldin ore in the one on the left anyways. The one on the right always has hearts in case you fell down and took damage from not deploying your sailcloth in time. The final piece of the key is over here to the right, and these skulls always have hearts in them, so I like to just leave them in case I got damaged in this upcoming area. Now you'll notice there's actually a little plug here on the left, which is similar to the ones we saw before. There's actually 2 ways to do this. You can actually just grab the bomb. I like to face this way rather than turning around the other way. But then that way I can turn around and I can still see what's going on. And all you have to do is have it touch the lava. You don't have to wait for the timing, nothing. As soon as the bomb touches the lava, it will explode. So throw it into the lava. This will break the plug, which drains the lava in the nearby room so we can access the next area. Now, as a comment though, the plug is on both sides of the wall, so you don't have to actually break it here. You can totally break it on this side. So if you actually grab this bomb and throw it, the lava would have been higher at that point. If you throw it right here instead, yeah, like this. I thought for a second that I didn't record that. Anyways, if you throw it like that, it would have blown up a little bit taller or whatever because the lava was not a reduced height at that point. But that would totally blow it up too. The explosion would still touch that, and you can blow it up from this side, which is way easier. You don't have to try and worry about timing and run out there like I did. I was just showing the hard way first, but if you throw it from this side too, that also works. Go ahead and grab a bomb flower here, and what you need to do is roll it up the sandy incline, and then the momentum will take it back over to the far left. Also, I recommend you don't actually run on the sand until after the explosion. Otherwise, you could be in the middle of running on the sand, the explosion will happen, and then you'll come back to controlling your character, and you will slide down into the lava. So anyways, this will reveal another soft soil location that has the final piece of the key. So grab that, then run along the sand again to get back up onto this platform. So before you continue onwards, there is a shortcut off to the right, and I would recommend you open that up. In particular, if you are struggling with getting those remaining keys on that slide, then you can use this nearby air geyser to do that. But I liked having the shortcut here open. There's often some volcanic ladybugs against this wall, and there's usually 2 or 3, but there happened to only be 1 for me this time. So grab one of these nearby bomb flowers and use it to blow up the nearby rocks. Now this leads back to the bird statue that's halfway up the mountain ascent, which is where we started this video actually and ended the last one. So this air geyser on our left right here is what leads back to the top of the mountain, so you can go back to that sand slide in case you didn't get that 4th key piece. So I have all the pieces now, so I'm finally able to go back to the temple. Nearby there is also some soft soil locations. This top one generally only has common stuff, so you might get some Eldin ore here. It's not quite super lucky, but this one right below actually usually has more rupees, and it often has ore in it. It's a little more higher quality or whatever. So I finally got some more ore. It happens. It is possible. The RNG in this has been terrible. I haven't gotten very much ore at all so far on this particular playthrough. So at this point, we have everything we need to enter the Earth Temple. So you want to hop into the geyser, and at this point, too, if you did not get the fourth piece of the key that was on that sand slide, you can actually just go off to the right here, and this will take you back to where that sand slide is, the entrance of it. Otherwise, we're going back to the Earth Temple. The fastest way is to take that geyser that we just went into, and this time go off to the left. This will take us back down the mountain, across the little bridge, and the temple is just to the right. Now, alternatively, you can, of course, just use one of the bird statues and warp to the sky, and then warp back to Eldin, and then just go to this bird statue, as long as you talked with it earlier anyways, and activated that. Alright, my bottles are filled with fairies, life is good, so I'm going to go ahead and enter the temple at this point. The only other, optional thing I suppose you could do at this point is you can go back to the sky because we unlocked several goddess chests. We unlocked goddess chests by activating goddess cubes here on the surface. So if you go to the sky, you find those chests, you open them up, one of those chests has a treasure medal in it, which makes it so when you have that in your inventory, you find more treasure from monsters. So in this dungeon, that would be monster claws from keys, like chew jellies from red choo-choos, and also ornamental skulls from Bokoblins. So those would be things that you could potentially find if you equip the treasure medal. So I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to do that after this dungeon. So join me for the next video, guys, where we will continue with the Earth Temple. I really do not want to get... No. Yeah, like that. Yeah, yes. So awesome.